Good afternoon and welcome to this teleconferencing session of PGDHHM program. Friends, we had first teleconferencing last month, and in which we have touched upon the basic concepts of management. And in that teleconferencing, we mentioned that the definition of management, what is management, and there were several definitions of management, but ultimately the final management definition which we consider that can be considered somewhat appropriate was that the optimum utilization, that is efficient and effective utilization of resources. And when we talk of resources, that is man, money, material, in order to achieve the organizational objective. That was the basic consensus which we reached, that this is the most appropriate definition for the management. And then in that also we discussed that this management is both a science and an art. Science because it is based on certain theories, certain principles, and art because the principles of science and the theories of the science you have to, as a manager, you have to apply in particular situation. It's not that a pure science. So management is considered to be a science as well as an art. And then we also discussed about some of the functions of the management. And there you were told about that there are planning functions, there are organizing functions, there are staffing functions of the management, then there are the directing function, and then coordination, then reporting, budgeting, and we added that there is another thing which is known as innovation. We also discussed about the types of resources, and if you recall that we mentioned at that particular point of time that there are three basic resources, that is man, money and materials. That is human resources, financial resources, and the material resources. And to add upon that, there were certain things, that time is another resource, then technology or the machinery or equipment, that is another resource. So as a manager, as a hospital manager, you have to manage these resources, you have to manipulate, you have to play with these resources in order to achieve the objectives of the organization. And as all of you know that what is the objective of hospital and health management, the basic purpose is to provide the quality patient care. So this much we discussed, and then we also discussed something about the principles of management. And you were told about the Henry Fayol's principles of management, in which there are 21 principles, in which we have mentioned that span of control is there, then unity of command, all those things were discussed. We will not go into details of those because that will be repetition, and we have got only 2 sessions this afternoon. So we will be just going little ahead, and we will be going towards the human resource management. As the definition tells, that is the management of resources. And I think all of you will agree with me that human resources are the major resources on which everything depends. And it's not only everything depends upon that thing, and they are the most trickiest resources to handle because they have got emotions. If you see money, no emotions, you can manipulate with the money. If materials are there, materials you can play, technology you can play with that, time also you can manipulate. But this only human beings, that man resources, when we say man, they have got certain emotions, and it's difficult to organize them, it is difficult to manage them, and there are certain processes which are involved in the management of human resource management. And today we will be talking only about those processes or those principles of human resource management. And to discuss with that what is human resource management, what are the various components, how the persons are being recruited, how they have to be kept motivated on the job, how the leadership has to be developed, what are the various interpersonal conflicts, what are the various types of training. So all these issues will be touching in this 1.5 hour session. And to discuss all this with you, we have with us Professor A.K. Sood, who is Executive Director of National Board of Examination, and he is a management expert as well as having a background of public health. So welcome Dr. Sood to this teleconferencing session. And I think last time you were also there, we have explained the students about the functions of management. Now we will go a little further from here, and you tell our learner that why this management of human resources, what is the importance of this thing, and what are the various methods by which we can make more meaningful use of the human resources.
Thank you, Professor Arora. In fact, Professor Arora said in the beginning that the main task of a manager is to optimally use the resources, and in the resources he has mentioned money, material, equipment and human resource. A good manager is one who is able to use these resources to the best extent in terms of, he mentioned two words, efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency basically is output-input ratio, that is for a given amount of input and better amount of output should be there for a good manager. Similarly, second point he mentioned was about the efficiency. Efficiency is basically outcome input ratio, that is whatever you are giving out from an organization, it must have some definite outcome in terms of improvement, either in terms of as he mentioned about the quality of services, or if you are dealing with the other people, it may be in terms of their competencies. So the main challenge for a manager is how to use these resources, and he also mentioned that human resource is a special resource as compared to the other resources, and one of the important reasons he gave is that human resource is a living resource, and being a living resource it has feelings and emotions. So that makes it distinct from other types of resources which as a manager you have to deal with. You may be working in a small clinic, or you may be working in a big hospital or in a medical college or with the health services at any level, starting from primary health center to district hospital or the state hospital. Always you are dealing with the human resource. And another challenge is that the resources, human resources you are dealing at these level, they are from different categories, starting from Group D employees, Group C employees, then professional like nursing professional, fellow colleagues, technicals. So it is a large, not only large number, but also different variety also. Heterogeneous group with lot of variety, and each of these category may have different feelings and emotion depending upon their background, depending upon their professional competency and other commitment. So the way you handle, as he said about the non-material, that non-human, other like material, money, equipment, the same way you cannot handle the human resource because it has feeling and emotion. That is very important point which you should understand. And second important thing is that if you look at the other resources, they are utilized through the human resource. So if you don't have good human resource, and even if you have best equipment available in the country or plenty of money or material or equipment, but still if the human resource is not properly trained, again you cannot use that resources.
Yeah. So that managing of other resources, yes, than the human resources.
Very right. So if you want to manage effectively other resources, you must also have better human resource. That is the second reason. And third reason, that in most of the organization, if you look into the recurrent budget, about 60 to 70% of the budget which you are spending in your organization goes towards the salary of this manpower which you have. So that means from all the three reasons, it is very important that you should handle the human resources very, very carefully. And this is a challenge also, especially in the government sector. Usually we complain that people below me are not interested in work, they don't want to work. And that is what usually manager, whether he is working as a medical superintendent or he is working at a district or a state headquarter or state hospital, because it is a large variety of people with different feeling and emotion, it is very difficult to handle. And usually we have a concept that the people usually don't want to work, and this perhaps is a myth. If you look into the analyze this into a little bit more detail, for example, work is a psychological need, work is a social need, and work is also a physiological need. So let's try to analyze this work from these three different perspectives. When I say that all of us want to work because it is a physiological need, that means as you require food, as you require water, as you require air, the same way we also require work. Now let's see what happens when we take food. The food is converted into energy, and some of this energy is used for our basic metabolic activities and for other things. So always there is a surplus of energy in our body, and work provides a forum through which this surplus energy is channelized. So it is different whether we are using this energy in a positive direction or using it in a negative direction. But from nutritional point of view and from a physiological point of view, all of us have to work, because work provides a forum through which we utilize our surplus energy. Now let's see another social dimension of work. Because what happens when we come to a workplace, we meet our seniors, we meet our colleagues, we meet our subordinates, and we interact with them. So that means workplace also provides an opportunity for social interaction. And many a time we say that man is a social animal. So that means social interactions for all of us are very, very important. It happens sometime if you don't go to office because of some say ailment, you don't go to office for a week or 2 weeks, you miss something. So that means when you go to our workplace, our social interaction with our colleagues, with our subordinates, with our seniors, that again is a very important stimulus for all of us. So from sociological perspective also, all of us as a human being will like to have positive social interaction, and work is again is a place where we get that opportunity. Third and the most important is a psychological perspective, especially when we are as a professional, whether we are working as a nursing professional or working as a technical person or medical professional. It is our inborn desire to excel in whatever area we are working. We may be a painter, the person may be anyone, maybe a sports person, for example. So there is an inbuilt desire in all of us to excel in whatever area we are working in. And when we go for our work, it gives us opportunity for further developing our skills and potential. So from psychological perspective also, work is a necessary, because it gives us opportunity for our further sharpening of the skill, acquiring of the additional skill. So from all these three perspectives, whether it is a physiological perspective, or it is a social perspective, or it is a psychological perspective, all of us want to work. But this is also true that in some of the organizations, especially in the government sector, we are not able to get the best work out of our subordinates. So that means there is a lot of scope for a manager, as a health manager or a hospital manager, to get this work done from the others. Because as Dr. Arora said, the definition of management is basically to get the work done from the other. And when we say that human resource management or human resource development, the definition itself, which you will see on the screen, is it is a process by which the employees of an organization are helped in a continuous and planned way. So this is very important to note in this definition, that it is a process. Human resource management, human resource development is not a one-time activity. It is a process. It is a continuous process. That means throughout the entire working career of the individual in an organization, this activity has to be, human resource development activity has to be planned. Secondly, it is a planned activity. It is not a haphazard or a one-time activity. So in human resource development, there are two key words here. One is that it is a process. That means it has to be a continuous activity throughout the period an individual spends in an organization. Secondly, it is a planned way. It is a planned way. Say that if you are dealing with the human resource in terms of nursing manpower or medical manpower, there has to be proper planning. The type of training program you want to expose to these people, that is again very, very important. So it has to be a continuous activity, and it also has to be a planned activity. So what we do in this we do the three things. First thing is that we help our manpower either to acquire additional competencies in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge, or sharpen their existing capabilities. So that is one very important component when we talk about realizing the full potential. That means they must be given continuous training for acquiring additional competencies or sharpening their existing capabilities. And second is, because as I said, if we analyze ourselves, how much our inner potential is being utilized, especially in the government setup. So most of you will say, okay, you have a lot of competencies, a lot of skills, but in your present setup you are only able to use say 10% or 15% or 25%. So that means there is a lot of potential in each and every one of you, especially in the government sector, which is not utilized. So one of the purpose of human resource development is to use this unfulfilled potential which is there in all categories of people. And third component of human resource development is to develop a positive work culture, which is also very crucial. Because we find a person who may not be doing well in one organization, But when this person shifts to another organization, he does wonder. So that means the person is the same, his competencies, capabilities are the same, but at the same time he has been exposed to a different type of work culture in another organization. So this is also very, very important. So when we talk about human resource development, these are the three basic elements which as a manager we should focus on. First, we should help our subordinates, our colleagues in developing their current capabilities, helping them acquire newer capabilities. We should help them to exploit their inner potential and also to develop a positive work culture which should be there.
That is the key factor, that developing a positive work culture, because that goes in a long way in improving the efficiency and effectiveness of any organization. Because if the work culture is not conducive, then there can be so many conflicts, and ultimately the productivity or the performance of the organization goes down.
Yes, you are very right. In fact, this work culture is the most important thing, and many a time we think that work culture is a responsibility of someone else. If you analyze it carefully, the giving a positive work culture to your organization is the responsibility of the manager. Especially those of us who are occupying the key positions as a medical superintendent or head of the organization. Basically it is our responsibility to give a positive work culture, and subsequently we will see what are the elements which gives a positive work culture and how we can do that. And I think we'll discuss it a bit later. But there are other mechanisms, as Dr. Arora said in the beginning, that how we can develop the human resource which is available to you. So let's see what are those some of these basic mechanisms. First is a human resource planning. This basically means right person with right competency at right place. Many times we think in the government sector, if you have large number of people under you or within your department, your efficiency may increase. But it sometimes does not happen, because human being is a very strange, we may have sometimes very strange behavior. 1 plus 1 is not always 2. It may be half, or it may be 1 plus 1, maybe even 11. So that means it is very important how you look into this human resource planning part of it. So increasing the number, say if you have a X amount of doctors in your hospital, and if you think that if you increase it by X, another X, so it does not necessarily mean that the output will also increase. It may happen that the output may come down, as Dr. Arora said. There may be more personal conflicts which may be coming because of sharing of the resources and status in the hospital. Or if you are able to manage them, then the number output may increase several times. So it is the way how you look at this that is very, very important. And when you call about human resource planning, as a manager you have to have an optimal number. Now the question is how we can have a optimal number for each category of people working in a hospital setup or health services setup. And for that there are scientific techniques available, and one of the basic technique is work study and method study, which is usually done to identify what will be the optimal number of, say for example, doctor working in a say primary health center or in a district hospital or in a specialist hospital. What would be the number of technical person, nursing manpower, so on and so forth. So this we can do by what is known as the work study and method study. The other method is that based on the opinion of the experts. The experts can also give an idea. Say if you want to establish a hospital with 100 beds, you require so much sort of doctors in this particular category, so many nurses, so many technical, so many support staff. So there is a way, scientific way to know the number. So in human resource planning our focus is on number, and as I said that number should be optimal number. And this optimal number is determined by scientific methods, as I mentioned, which include work study, method study, opinion of the experts, and sometimes the norms may be available at the national level or maybe at the state level, which can give you an idea that this should be the number available. Second is the right person. That knowing the competency of the person who is working with you is also very, very important. Sometimes it happens that you have trained staff nurses, you have a trained technical pharmacist, you can have technical assistant, and many a time we ask them to do the registration work in a hospital setting. So that means you are not putting these people at an appropriate place where they can utilize their competencies fully. So when you talk about human resource planning, it does not necessarily mean that human resource planning can only be done at a bigger hospital or in a state level or in a medical college setting. It can be done even in a small clinic if you are running a small clinic. Only thing is you have to be careful and sensitized about that. What should be the number, optimal number I should have for each category? Then what are the competencies required to perform a given amount of tasks which you are expecting from them? If you are expecting someone to do registration, so then you should appoint a person who has that capability. And third is how you place the people with different competencies and capabilities in different positions in the organization so that they give their best. I give an example of nursing staff or pharmacists. They are doing registration sometime in a primary health center or maybe in a district hospital. So when you are giving them a task which is where they are not utilizing their skills for which they are trained, naturally they will lose interest. So when we talk about human resource planning, basically in short that you have to look into all these three aspects: right person, right number and the right position in the organization. So if you are able to do that, you will see that the performance of the individual in your organization will improve, because they will enjoy work, because this work will help them to develop further capabilities and they will feel that they are doing something productive. Second important mechanism for human resource development is the way you select a person in the organization. Again, it is very, very important that if you have good people in your organization, the performance will improve. It is just like a computer, garbage in and garbage out principle. But unfortunately, sometimes, especially in the government setup, we are not very careful about this selection and recruitment part. We should remember that the person whom we are recruiting today, this person is going to be in the organization for the next 30-35 years. So if we are not careful at the time of selection, naturally if you are selecting a person who is not competent, who is not fit enough for the work in your organization, naturally your performance of the organization will also not be good. So this is a very important, I think, point which we should consider. Sometime under pressure we select a person who is not competent. So what is happening? You are at the same time, because you are having other type of other people also in the organization. So if the selection process is not proper, you are also demoralizing the other people, because they will feel that merit is not given due importance in the selection, so why they should work also. So selection recruitment is very, very important mechanism for human resource development. When you are doing selection and recruitment, your purpose should be to select the best person available in the market. So for that, first step perhaps is you have to invite the application, and that you can do either through advertisement in the newspaper or put the vacancy on the website, or you can have the services of the private professional organization, or you can especially in professional selection, they can have campus selection where the companies, they go to the college and they in the final year or during internship they can select the people. So the first part of selection recruitment is the proper advertisement, so that many people apply to your organization. And the way you advertise is also very, very important. Sometimes you might have noted, especially in the corporate sector, in the advertisement itself they mention that if you join this organization as a manager, after 5 years or 10 years you will be at this level. So that means that also helps the people to apply for your organization, because this career path, career opportunities, if you indicate in the advertisement, that gives weightage. Then there are different types of selection procedures depending upon the organization you are working. In some organization, they may go for a screening test, especially when the number of candidates who have applied is very large. You can have some sort of screening test. In the screening test, you can either screen them at the level of their knowledge testing, or you can then further screen them on the what we call the trade test, or their skills, for example, and competencies which they have. And the third level could be then you can hold the interview. There could be several phases in the interview. You can have interview in the phases, because this is very crucial, especially the private sector. They spend a lot of time in the selection and recruitment process, whereas in the government setup, just an interview of 5 minutes and you are selecting a person. In 5 minutes you cannot assess the capability of the person. So especially in the private sector and some corporate sector, they are doing the interview in phases. In first phase, second phase and third phase, like that. So you at least you inform the candidate what your organization is. At the same time, you try to assess. The main purpose of the interview is three. First, you want to assess the capacity of the person. How we can assess the capacity? This is by his qualification. The person is MBBS or MD or whatever qualification he has. So what capacity he has, what maximum he can work in an organization can be assessed by the capacity, by looking into the qualification which he has. Second is the competency. Competency basically we assess by his biodata, the previous past experience, at which level he has worked, what type of surgical procedure he has done, what type of situation he has handled. And third is the whether this person will fit into my organization or not. Capability, say if this person join my organization, whether he will be able to solve the issues which you have. So in interview, the purpose is not only to collect information from the candidate, but also to give him information about the organization. So it is a both-way process. It should be a both-way process. A good interview should be a both-way process, where you try to assess the capacity of the person by looking into the qualification. You try to assess the competency by looking into his previous biodata in terms of work experience. And third, to judge to which extent this person with this much capacity and capability will be able to help sort out the issues which I have in my organization. So it is a both-way process. So this selection recruitment, then there are different types of procedures which you have depending upon the organization you are working in. Then third mechanism is the training, induction training, or it could be a on-the-job training. So it is also very important, because once a person joins the organization, he is new to the organization. So it is your duty as a manager that he should be oriented towards the organization, what is expected from him, what are the different types of unit in the organization. So in some of the good organizations, they hold what is known as the induction program. It may be maybe a few days, or it may be a few weeks, depending upon the organization you are working. So induction program, a good induction training program is also very, very important. In our country, especially for these civil services, IAS officer, there is a very good induction program. They are placed during this induction program at different level, starting from the village level, district level. They work with the different types of institution, whether it is Panchayati Raj institution at the village level or district level. So this induction training program basically gives an orientation to the candidate who has joined your organization, what is expected from him, and what is the norm, what is the work culture. So it is very important that due importance should be given to this induction program. Then there is a regular training program. As I said, that in a good human resource development program, there should be well planned on-the-job training or off-the-job training program also, depending upon the capabilities which you want to give to the individual. So this training program, again, depending upon the interest, depending upon the career which a person wants to pursue, depending upon the job opportunities. Say, in most of the organization, as you have more and more experience, you will get additional management responsibility, administrative responsibilities. So the purpose of this in-service training basically is to prepare you for those additional responsibilities, whether they are administrative, whether they are technical, and so on and so forth. So this training is very, very important. As I mentioned, that most of us are not able to utilize our full potential. So in good organization for human resource development, there is due importance given for these periodic in-service training program. These training program could be in the same institution, or it could be in other institution within the country or outside the country. But the basic purpose of this is to develop the potential, and ultimately if you have a staff with additional competencies, additional skills, it is expected that once they come back to their workplace, their performance will also improve. So this is also a very important mechanism for human resource development. Now let's see what are the other mechanisms which are already there in even in government setup. For example, performance appraisal system. As all of us require rewards. Rewards could be not always in monetary terms. It could be even non-monetary rewards in terms of appreciation. So this should be based on an objective performance appraisal system. Unfortunately, in the government setup, we don't have, now in some organization, this objective performance appraisal system is coming up. We have a system what is known as an annual confidential report system, where you periodically, every year you assess the performance, but sometimes we don't give the feedback. If the performance appraisal system can act as a mechanism for human resource development, only if the feedback is given to the person for whom you are doing the performance appraisal system, one, and secondly, there should be objective parameters, and thirdly, the person should know what is expected from him. So that means in a good performance appraisal system, there should be a mechanism where before the financial year starts or the beginning of the new year, there should be a mechanism whereby the subordinate and the senior people or the management, they sit together and fix the target. Because if as a subordinate I must know what is expected from me by the organization in the next year, so that accordingly I can. So that means there should be a mechanism whereby the mutual goal setting should be there before the start of the new year, and there again the senior and the subordinates, they should discuss what possible targets can be given. See,
sir, you mean to say that the participatory sort of performance appraisal need to be...
it is very, very important. Otherwise, it loses its importance. Say, if as a subordinate, and you are my senior, you give me a task which I am not capable of. So, during these discussion, the senior should assess the competency of the subordinate. At the same time, he should be given those tasks which are achievable. Say, if you give some task which is, you don't give additional resources for that. So, naturally, the target, say, if you want me to do so many surgical procedure, so that means in my hospital there should be facilities for those surgical procedure. There should be support nursing staff, support technical staff. So if you have a mechanism whereby from the beginning of the year, the senior and the subordinate staff, they sit together and jointly they do what is the target setting for the future, especially in the corporate sector, in the private company, they are doing it. So this sort of system need to be introduced in the government setup also. So that is one mechanism.
So friends, whenever you are doing this performance appraisal, what Professor Sood is telling you that if it can be a joint performance appraisal system, it will yield more results, better results.
Yes.
And so I will request that when you go back to your organization after going through this module, you just try to apply some. You see, whatever we are teaching, it may not be applicable in some, as you are mentioning,
yes,
in government situation, it may not be possible to implement. But if you try, just try as a project, just try it as an exercise, see that how it is better than the other. Just try to compare. That is the way of learning when you are doing this type of postgraduate diploma.
Yes, yes. So this is very, very important point which you have given, because these management concepts and principles, they are applicable in all settings, whether it is industry, whether it is health, but the extent of application may vary depending on the setup you have. So very right, but these can be tried out any time. So even if you are working at a primary health center, and before you give this target for family planning or immunization, why not you discuss with your supervisor and health worker? So if some of your health worker may not be trained to give BCG immunization, for example. Some of your health worker may not be having enough sort of material in terms of vaccine availability or in terms of facilities for sterilization or for syringes. So accordingly, if you give them a realistic target, when you have a joint this sort of discussion, that means the targets which you are giving for the next year, they are more realistic.
And then they try to adopt wrong practices.
Yes,
also.
yes,
you must have seen that the people are showing that so many
yes,
contraceptives have been given, which have not actually been given.
Very
it's on the paper, but what they do then, they then throw or hide that. So there is a loss of resources
also. So that is one thing. Then secondly, in a good performance appraisal system, there should be also a good objective monitoring mechanism. As you very rightly said, our monitoring mechanism right now is based on weekly reports or monthly reports. Just we look into the figure part of it, how many number. We really not bothered whether the quality component is missing, and we don't really assure whether the number which he has given is a true figure or not. As you said, sometimes they may write something, but in reality it may be different. So that means in good performance appraisal system, there should be joint objective setting, there should be good periodic monitoring mechanism, and the most important is this performance should be linked with some reward system. Otherwise, the people say, I am doing good work, but what reward I am getting? I am getting promotion as per the guidelines which are every 5 year or 6 year. So why should I perform? So that a good performance appraisal system should look into all these issues. And another point which Professor Arora said is participatory, because right now what is happening, only senior is assessing the performance of a subordinate. But there are certain qualities which may be known to my colleagues. I have certain qualities which are known to my subordinates.
Those who are at the implementation level.
Your implementation. So that means there is another concept which is coming up in good performance appraisal system is 360-degree appraisal. That means a person is appraised not only by his senior, but also by his colleagues and also by his subordinates. Because certain my communication skills, my leadership skills, my motivation skills are known to my subordinates, whereas how I am collaborating with different departments are known to my colleagues, and there are certain competencies which are known to my senior. So in private sector especially, this 360-degree appraisal system has come up. So I have spent little bit more time on that, because performance appraisal system is very crucial, very good if you link it, do it in an objective way, and also you link it with the reward system or punishment system, which sometimes is also used as a HRD mechanism. So rewards, as I said, not only always they are the monetary rewards. Of course, monetary rewards are always welcome, perks are always welcome, but rewards always can also be in terms of non-monetary terms. For example, appreciation. So sometimes as a senior person, if you appreciate the work of a subordinate, that itself is a reward. Even all of us require some sort of gesture whereby we feel that our good work should be appreciated. So that could also be a reward mechanism. You highlight the best worker of the year or the month, best doctor, depending upon the performance and quality of work. You can indicate his photograph on the notice board, or you have a journal or a magazine. You can put small
recognition gets motivate the
people. So reward and the mechanism is also very, very important, because what happens when you appreciate the work of a person, because human resource has feelings and emotion. So we are able to,
even if in front of so many people, if you tell that this person has done
well job, even if you appreciate good, very good, you have done very well, even these small words make a big difference sometimes. So that will also be included in terms of reward system. The another mechanism which we have is what we call job rotation or transfer. Because if one person is doing a job in a particular unit for a long time, as a human being, we tend to get bored. So there could be another mechanism, transfers, if they are properly used. The purpose of transfer basically is to expose you to different setting with different challenges, so that you are able to use all your competencies and skills. So transfers can also act as a mechanism for human resource development. Unlikely, especially in the government setup, it is usually a punishment mechanism.
It should not be. Yes. It should not be used like for that purpose.
Yes. So sometimes if we don't like a person, we just post him outside the city or outside the state.
Transfers can be very good way of improving the performance. Because if the right kind of person is transferred to a particular place, I think he will be able to perform better.
Yes, right, because moreover that it breaks monotony. Sometimes during transfer you give him additional responsibilities. The person may have additional challenges, and that itself will act as a motive for giving the better situation. Then we should have in the government setup, sometimes we don't have this counseling mechanism. But in private sector there are employees counseling mechanism, whereby you guide your subordinate how you can look for a career in that particular organization. Say if you join as a medical officer in a primary health center, so if you pursue these type of activities, if you undergo this type of training program, you will be promoted. That will help you. The career pathway should also be looked at into. This is another important issue. That means for each category of people who are working with you, you must have career pathway for that, proper counseling, employees and employer counseling, and this relationship is also very, very important. And then we come to what we call as the work culture, which you have just said. This is again very, very important aspect of human resource development, because ultimately as a human being you are working within a given setup, and the same person in one setup performs X amount of work. But when the same person goes to another setup, his work may increase manifold or his work may decrease manifold. So that means it is very important the way we have a work culture in the organization. And who gives the work culture to the organization? It is usually the responsibility of the manager. Manager gives the work culture to the organization. So what we mean by a positive work culture, there are certain elements in a positive work culture. If you look into the monitor, first is the openness. Openness means that the subordinate, they should not hesitate when they are giving some suggestion or when they are putting their viewpoint to their senior. So openness means there should be, that barrier should not be there. Many times it happens that when as a junior person we want to approach our senior, there is a sense of hesitation in us. We think that our suggestion, our remarks, our viewpoint, yes, may be criticized, or it will be not be given due importance. So we tend to sometimes don't give very good suggestions.
Even if we have, we don't want to.
We sometimes don't give that. So when we say that good work culture, in good work culture, a subordinate will not hesitate to open in front of a senior in terms of giving his viewpoint. Sometimes we find that our subordinate, or let's take an example of a primary health center, for example. A health worker may be there in a sub-center for a long time. For 10 years or 5 years, he may be in that particular sub-center, whereas a medical officer may be there for only 1 year or a few months. So the experience which a health worker has at a primary health center or maybe at a sub-center, sometimes they may give a better solution to a problem. So if there is openness in the organization, the subordinate will not hesitate to give the good suggestion, and ultimately with these suggestions, the performance of the organization as such will improve. So the openness is very important element of a good positive work culture. Second is the trust, especially in the health sector when you are working as a team. I may be a very good surgeon, but the outcome of my surgery is also dependent upon my nursing staff. It is also dependent upon the ward boy who is there in the ward, because I might have performed very good surgery in the operation theatre, but ultimately it is a junior consultant, it is a junior doctors, with the resident doctor, their staff, nursing staff, support, support staff is there. So there has to be for a good professional services in terms of good quality, there is need of team spirit. So that means we must trust on each other. So this mutual trust is also very, very important. So this is again a very important element of a good work culture, where senior, junior and other support staff, they trust each other capability, and they work as a team, not as an individual. Third important element is the autonomy. Autonomy means that you should give functional autonomy to the person who is working. That means depending upon his capability, depending upon his skills, depending upon his knowledge, you don't interfere in the process, because many a times we as a senior, we feel that our subordinate may do some mistake, but you observe that person from a distance. If you think that some serious mistake is going to be there, only then you interfere. Because if you give autonomy to the people will enjoy that work, they will own that work. Say for example an artist, for example, or a carpenter, or maybe a surgeon, for example, a junior surgeon. So if as a senior surgeon every time you are interfering, okay, clean with this, oh no it is not there, now drape it properly, now put this in season, now lock this artery force, use this artery force, so I do this. So if you are interfering at each level, the person who is doing the surgery, he will not own that surgery, he will say you have done it. So that feeling of satisfaction will comes when you own a particular work. So for that, functional autonomy is very, very important. Third and fourth element is creativity. Creativity is also because creativity basically is very, very important for finding solution to different problems. Because many a times we don't encourage creativity in our government setup. So whenever we face some problem, we always ask what was done when this problem occurred last year or last month. But today the situation is different. The environmental factors are different, organizational factors are different. A solution which was very good maybe 2 years back or 5 years back or 1 year back may be a totally useless solution now. So this creativity should be encouraged. Creativity basically means new innovative ideas. Then proactivity, another important element of a positive work culture, basically which means that you anticipate what is going to happen and start taking action before. For example, if the summer season is approaching and you are working in a primary health center, so you are expecting epidemic of cholera, for example, or epidemic of gastroenteritis. So that means if a health worker or if a health supervisor says that now summer season is approaching, let's do more, give more emphasis on chlorination, let's have more packet of ORS stored at the primary health center or sub center. So that activity should be encouraged. So proactivity means that our workers, our subordinates, they anticipate the events and start taking action beforehand so that they are well prepared. Another important factor is authenticity, which is basically related to honesty, values, because they are also very, very important. Hard work, honesty, punctuality. So a positive work culture basically means that you have openness in your organization, where your subordinates, they trust each other. You give functional autonomy to your subordinate, you encourage newer ideas, you allow them to anticipate the things and start taking action, and you also encourage honesty, punctuality, and these are some of these values which make towards a good work culture. So this is in brief about how we can improve the human resource by different mechanisms.
Thank you, Professor Sood. Professor Sood very comprehensively talked about that human resource planning, and he has covered various components. I think the term which he coined, that 360-degree performance appraisal system, career-oriented, work culture, creativity, proactiveness, I think these are some of the issues which we need to discuss when we are having the in the program study center, when we are having the contact program. At that point of time you can discuss these things. Meanwhile, I will make a request to all of you that if there are any questions pertaining to course 1, please after the break when we are coming, please send your questions either through fax, or you can make telephone calls and ask your question pertaining to this course 1.